I want to welcome you to today's webinar on the topic of how to shatter validation barriers with intelligent agents to enable intelligent batch records. I'm Jan Kugel, the director at Qualistory, and I will be your host for today. So today we'll explore how validation, which is a critical and often time-consuming step in the pharmaceutical manufacturing, can be transformed using intelligent agents. I want to thank our event partner, Aizon, a pioneer in intelligent GXP manufacturing. Their AI solutions help eliminate paper processes, boost yield, cut deviations, and ensure quality. And now let's meet our speakers. So first we have Geri Studebaker, Chief Commercial Officer at Aizon. Geri is a transformational leader focused on improving global health through innovative business strategies. With experience from Google and extensive work in digital transformation, she leads Aizon's efforts to harness AI to optimize pharma manufacturing efficiency, yield, and quality. And joining her is Toni Manzano, a co-founder and chief science officer of Aizon. With over 20 years of experience in software solutions for pharmaceutical manufacturing and supply chains, Toni is an astrophysicist turned quality and an AI expert. So that's a very interesting transformation. And he's a very recognized thought leader and a patent holder, university lecturer, and contributor to the United Nations AI initiative. So we are very lucky to have him today with us for this talk. So let's get started. Geri, over to you.
Great. Thank you, Jan, for the warm introduction, and thanks to the audience for attending from all over the world. It's great to see everybody here. In the coming hour, we want to quickly reflect back to January 2025, where we hosted the Hidden Gem of GXP AI, and we took a look at where those predictions were then and where they are today. We'll dive deeper into validation in pharma digitization. We will look into the highly timely and transformative topic of Agentic AI. Well, we'll demystify what Agentic AI is and what sets it apart from traditional AI. I'm sure a topic that all of you are very interested in. We'll introduce you to Aizon's intelligence agents, and then finally take a look at AI enabling intelligent batch records and ultimately realizing the quantifiable value behind those. You'll want to stick around for the whole session. We have a special surprise to unveil at the end of the session. So we're looking forward to spending the next hour with you. If we reflect back to January at the start of 2025, we made a pretty strong prediction that 2025 will be the breakout year of GMP AI. While much of the attention still remains on AI's impact in R&D and drug discovery, we are strongly seeing and believing that AI in manufacturing is the real game changer. The AI awareness and momentum in manufacturing is unprecedented. We encourage you to visit a lot of those viral and white papers that are listed there in this slide, which will go into much detail, but you've seen the trajectory of where this is going inside of just these short, quick 6 months. The application is more importantly highlighted and probably realized from a value perspective. AI will continue to be a disruptor in manufacturing, optimizing production, minimizing deviations, and improving quality, delivering hundreds of millions in realized value. So we believe that prediction is well on course, if not overly exceeding us at this mid-year point. In January, we didn't stop at just highlighting the potential for GMP AI in manufacturing. We also felt it was important to challenge some of the existing definitions, one of those being the digital twin. During the PDA Good Digital Manufacturing event this year in Basel, the audience endorsed the need to distinguish between digital shadows and digital twins. Aizon is compelled, though, to take that one step further once there's a common understanding of that bidirectionality of a digital twin. Aizon is coining the term GMP twin to highlight the relevance of GMP in that continuous feedback loop. We'll definitely go more into that perspective in the upcoming slides. Continuing our efforts to demystify the advance of use of AI, we created an industry-specific cheat sheet, the practical validation of AI models. This matrix helps guide teams through the often complex process of validating AI models in a regulated environment. It provides key steps and considerations ensuring that these AI models deploy meet rigorous GXP standards. And I'll tell you, we have this cheat sheet card at many of our events. Many of you may have actually picked one up, and I will say it is one of the most sought after takeaways. We're offering it as a downloadable resource for all of you here in attendance at the webinar, so please don't miss out on getting that download. It is packed with insights and best practices that can save your team considerable time and effort. If you did miss the Hidden Gem webinar earlier this year, where we explored all of those topics in greater detail, please leverage the QR code here for a full replay of the webinar. I guarantee you it's a must watch. Let me turn it over to Toni to take us through the validation of pharma digitization.
Thank you, Geri. And please join us in this journey, because we're going to start an adventure together. So we will explain all the paths. So please be here until the end, because we need to explain also the framework and the context before to arrive to the final outcomes of this part. So please be patient and be with us. Let me start with the classical approach. The classical approach is not very classical. Actually, in 2016, Bioforum published the famous digital maturity model, where they describe and they introduce 5 levels of maturity based on the digitalization experience in the pharmaceutical industry. Well, each level means a lot of things. So you can take this Bioforum model, you can identify where you were and where you would like to go, and you have everything already described in a very nice roadmap that you can establish internally in the company. But first of all, let me share with you a very relevant figure. Probably you are thinking, well, where I am in the digital maturity model, no? To be honest, we have participated in different surveys. If you are interested in the surveys, they are public and we can share with you the reference. But in all of them, at the end, we calculate which is the current state of maturity in drug manufacturing. Remember, drug manufacturing, I'm not talking about the full life cycle of the drugs. In drug manufacturing, today, the pharmaceutical industry is in 1.6, between 1 and 5. And please, if you think that working in my spreadsheet, in my computer, that means that I am digital, this is not digital in the modern conception. To be digital means that if you are working in your spreadsheet with all the batches that they were going well during all the year, but you are the ownership of this spreadsheet and no one else can participate of this knowledge, this is not digital. You are creating a digital island. So only when you are able to share the data that you're producing, you are able to consume the data that your departments and your friends and colleagues and peers in the industry, they are generating. Only when you are able to consume this data in a transparent way, you can talk about a connected plant. That means that you are in a level 3, where everything is connected and everyone that has permissions, of course, can take values coming from quality control in order to make the matching with the efficiency of my production line. So when you are able to do these kind of things in a transparent way, without to call to the IT department, just because you want to do it, is because you have a connected plan. And when you are able to connect and you are able to extract and transform data into knowledge, you are able to make the predictive plan. And finally, when everything runs smoothly, working with AI as another operator, as another C-level guy that you have in your staff, you can talk about adaptive plan. So based on these concepts, please, I would like to share with you this poll. And if you are so nice and you can answer the poll, this is the question. Based on this definition, the idea is, in which stage do you think that your department, your company currently is now? So pre-digital means that everything is in paper. I don't think so, of course, but probably more people, a lot of people is thinking that they are very digitalized, and digital doesn't mean to work with PDFs. Digital means that we have the ability to share the information and to consume the information coming from everywhere. No, so in which state do you think that you are today?
So the poll is running, and we have people are now busy answering it. And while they do it, if it's okay with you, Toni, there was a question that I got directly from a participant, and he heard Geri talking about digital twins. And would you be able to elaborate, meanwhile, a bit, a few words about what exactly digital twin means, especially in GMP, and does it must be also AI? Is it like interchangeable? Can you give us some more
Sure.
information about it?
Sure. Actually, a digital twin is a replica, is a cyber copy of a physical thing. So you have a physical process, a physical object, a bioreactor, maybe a fermentation, maybe a downstream process, and this process and these operations, they are producing data. When you are able to replicate this process, this object, this system, based on the data that is produced by the system, and the replica is managed autonomously by itself based on the AI model that you can run on top in order to reproduce every single step, the reality that is happening on the physical world, is when you are able to talk about this digital shadow. Only when the cyber copy is able to connect in real time with the physical world, having the same thing, so you can ask or you can interact with your process, with your physical process, or you can act or you can interact with your cyber copy of the physical process in the same way, is when we can talk about digital twins. Digital twin means that they both worlds, the virtual one and the physical world, they are connected in real time, and you can do whatever you want to do in both sides. This is the real meaning of the digital twin. And if you want to run digital twins in GMP environments, of course, this data flow between the both worlds, between the physical and the cyber world, needs to be performed in the right way. So you need to rely on the data. You need to rely on the data integrity behind the data. No one can violate the data. Or the life cycle of the AI models that they are running on the cyber copy. Everything needs to be controlled and on the control for GMP context. No, so this is what really means GMP digital twin or GMP twin.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I hope that it was clear. So it's very interesting, and a lot of those definitions were also new for me. So thank you for that, Toni. And I have finalized the poll, and we have right now the results showing on screen.
So it's good and it's not too good that we can double check that again. It seems that 1.6 is the current state of the digitalization. So thank you so much for participating, because you are part of this journey, and it's important that we are aligned with the current situation and also where we want to go. So thank you so much because that is the best evidence that we are doing the things in the right way, and we want to change. No, so let's go to the next slide. Thank you so much, and we will see why. So this is part of the adventure, the journey that we have already started. No, so probably you have this kind of hurdles today. So you know that we are pre-digital or we are creating digital silos. Okay, but we want to move forward. We want to evolve. The society is evolving. It's the first time in the history of the human race that the full society is pushing to the industry in order to be digitalized. Everyone is digitalized. No one can survive without digital data at any moment. So it's the first time that happens in the history. In the previous industrial revolutions, it was in the contrary case. The industry pushed to the society to adopt innovation, the cars, the automotives, the steam machines, and so on. Today, we are living a completely different revolution is the society. So this cultural change is coming from the society as a need. And in the pharmaceutical industry, we have an inertia that we need to beat. No? Well, so the idea is that if we want to move forward in this evolution, that there is no way, we need to get the bus, otherwise we will lose the bus. So the only way to do that is, well, try to change your cultural mindset in terms of how we're managing data. The data is, we are not the proprietary, we are not the ownership of the data. The data is of the company. The data belongs to the company and finally belongs to the final patients. We are doing drugs because we serve to the patients. So they are the final users. And this mindset, believe me, change everything, because you will see how the transformation in your company is moving from digital silos and let me say digital lake, where everyone can access to the data that they have access to in order to transform data into information. And finally, once you have access to this full lake of data coming from all the departments, you can transform the information into knowledge based on, well, human capabilities or augmented human capabilities, transforming human actions into AI. So this is the goal. And well, you know, my role in the company is compliance officer. I'm chief compliance officer. Maybe this is the most boring part, but believe me, I would like to share that with all the quality and validation teams that we have in the audience today. Sometimes, or usually, our task as a compliance and quality people, our tasks are felt like that we are just a cost for the company. Believe me, this is changing today. Quality and compliance today needs to transform our contribution to the company into value. Traditionally, in the right world, in the usual world, people is looking at us as a quality and compliance teams. They look at us like a cost where we are distributing our task into risk assessment, creating traceability matrix, doing OQs, doing PQs. Believe me, this is not our goal. We are not paper generators. We are doing that because it's the tool that we have so far. But our main task is to provide the right medicine to the right patient, always considering that needs to be safety and quality, and of course, efficiency. So our task in this world is not to generate paper. Our task in our world is to be sure that every drug, every single pill that has been never tested in the manufacturing is, well, as expected. No, this is what we are doing. But how we can do that from a pharma perspective, from a cloud perspective, from a new evolution perspective? Believe me, we are not alone. Regulators are calling us, are crying since a lot of time ago for a modernization. In 2019, for example, the FDA promote the emerging technology team in order to promote and to help companies to be more innovative and to modernize the drug manufacturing industry. So we have plenty of different examples where the regulators are pushing to the industry to evolve in this modernization. So regulators, believe me, they are with us. They want and they need that our patients are always safe based on the tasks that we're doing. And for the reason, the regulators are pushing for any kind of adoption, innovation adoption that could help to our patients. One of them is cloud. And I don't know if you are aware about that, but for example, FDA, they have all the documentation that they are generating, they have in cloud. Everyone is working in cloud. When people ask to me, well, I don't know if cloud is secure enough. My answer is, do you know where is your money? Which is the last time that you went to the physical office in the bank? You remember the last time? Your money is in the cloud. The cloud, very well orchestrated and well maintained, is the most secure system that you can work with. For the reason today, not only big companies or pharmaceutical companies, small companies, also regulators, they are relying, they are trusting in cloud. And now we are starting the journey. So let me share with you now this kind of, new vision. let's start first with a poll before to go to the details. How we can shatter the barriers. Please share with us your experience based on this poll, and we will start with the real content, with the real essence of my part. So the question now is, what is your experience with validation? Remember that we need to be very transparent with ourselves. So we would like to know if you have more experience on-prem or you have already experience in cloud, validating applications in cloud, or you have experience also with validating AI models, both things and hybrid system. Please participate in this poll because that could help us in the next part of the session. Do we have any question now? Meantime, Jan?
Yeah, so let me take a look. So while we get the poll on information in the cloud, so you have been talking about the cloud being secure. So can you say something about how the cloud and specifically the formula the cloud plus AI at the moment is accepted by regulators? Because I think it's like two different aspects which regulators are trying to tackle, and so how does it come together? Is there more challenges with that, or how do you see it?
Okay, well, this is a little bit of a spoiler about my last slides, but let me advance something. Based on the last published guidance coming from FDA, for example, we were very lucky. In January 2025, this year, FDA published a very nice guidance about how to use AI in drug manufacturing for making critical decisions. When EMA published past year, at the end of the 2024, they published the Act 2 about how to use AI in the society and specifically in medicinal products in the life cycle. They also describe that AI is a perfect tool in order to understand high-dimensional problems when they are complex. That is the perfect tool, no? So we have everything already there. The good part is that the regulators, they never can say, please don't use clouds, please don't use on-prem. They are establishing a general pathway. They are describing how to use in the right way this innovation without to be restrictive in one or the other one. But so this is very good because they are not forbidden. They are not against the use of cloud. Actually, they're using cloud in their own current systems. And the good part is that in this guidance, they are describing how to apply in any platform AI systems. But of course, when you are working in level 5 of maturity, could you imagine we're working with multiple systems at the same time, multiple AI models at the same time? We're talking about a real complex network of AI models where the output of one AI model is the input of the other one. So in this case, you cannot manage that in your laptop. You need power and robust systems based on cloud. And we will explain that in details in the next slide. So now we have the result. So it's very good to see that we have the majority of the audience that they are very experimented and they have a lot of experience validated on-prem software. Good. So we have some percentage that they have experience on cloud-based. Congratulations and very welcome. And just a few people with AI models and GMPI. So maybe that could be a very fruitful conversation today, and we will see why in the next slide. Thank you so much again. Now my intention is to share with you the difference between the classical on-prem and the cloud. And for all the people that you are used to work with cloud, validating cloud, please just let me know or let us to the audience if you agree with that or not. In 2018, we published a paper in the ISP, in the pharmaceutical engineering, where we describe how to differentiate or how to delegate responsibilities when you are working in cloud and in pharma. This very nice paper was nominated to the paper of the year because it was, well, we have a lot of readers. And the good part is that this table has been used and has been referenced in a lot of different scientific papers. Let me share with you the content. When we work in classical IT systems, on-prem systems, the quality and compliance team, we have a lot of work, a lot. We need to take care about everything in quality and compliance. I remember when I was validating IT softwares, I needed to validate not only the software itself, also we need to validate the CD, of course, the version and the release of this software, but also the hardware, the lab, the computer, the connectivity, everything, network, everything. Today, nowadays, with cloud system, like with software as a service system, with platform as a service system, or with infrastructure as a service systems, you need to delegate the responsibility in the provider or in the partner. I would like to use the name partner rather than the provider, because precisely when we work in GMP environments with cloud systems, there is a trustability, there is a very transparent relationship between cloud providers, software as a service, platform as a service, and the final users. Because pharmaceutical industry is very clever and they are very knowledgeable doing pharma, doing drugs. It's not the mission of drug manufacturers to know how cloud works. So we are working today in this cloud ecosystem in a, let me say, 50-50 relationship of trustability between users and providers. This is what the table is describing. If you're interested, here you have the reference. And let me share with you that when you are working with software as a service platforms, the qualification is a critical part. So today, users that they are using cloud platforms for GMP environments, they have to require the qualification documentation to the provider, to the partner, to the cloud partner. The qualification is really important because in the qualification, you will find, as a users, you will find all the topics, all the bullet points that you need to point out from your validation. For example, let me put a very nice example. In the classical world, on-prem, you need to perform the IQ. The installation qualification is when you put the CD or you put the USB and you install everything, and you take notes and you register the serial number, everything. How we can do that when we work with teams? How we can rely on the G Suite? You need to rely on the provider. So in this case, the qualification provided by the provider, by the cloud supplier, it's the basic in order to rely on your GMP environment. Based on that, you need to make the risk assessment in your master validation plan, and you need to assess which is the validation part that you need to do. Okay, so this is how that works. And this is how that works in the cloud system based on this concept. Today, in your left hand, you have the classical approach on-prem. On the right side, you have the new approach in serverless cloud architecture. Let me explain you how that works with a very clear example. Probably you have seen sometimes in your life Netflix. When you go to the Netflix platform, you see options, menus, buttons, and so on. Every single thing that you see in the screen is a different object. So in the classical world, you have a .exe that you need to execute with a lot of DLLs, that everything is part of the product. When we work with serverless cloud architecture, that is the most scalable one, every single thing is condensed in a component. Behind every single option of menu in Netflix, behind every single button, there is a single ecosystem that is not connected with the rest. So for the reason, when there is a new change, there is an update, there is a patch, there is a new release, you don't feel that the platform is falling down, because with every new release, only the component that is affected is updated. So this is mitigating a lot the risk version by version. Okay, so this is the classic. So this is how the new serverless architecture works in front of the new the classical one, no? On-prem, where everything was completely monolithical. No, this is the great change. Everything in serverless is like that. For example, let me put another example. Nasdaq. Nasdaq is performing millions of transactions per day. Every single transaction made in Nasdaq has a serverless architecture where everything is created, is executed, and destroyed. So, for the reason, every single transaction is performed in an individual way, and there is not a risk for cross-contamination. So the serverless architecture, like this one that you have in front of you from Amazon, is describing that every single thing can be done in single components, that it can be escalated as needed. So you don't need to take care about the RAM memory of my computer. If my computer is 5 terabytes of information, when my computer will be exhausted, no? Everything is scalable. This is the great thing of the serverless architecture. And this is why you need to be sure that your provider is offering a robust qualification. Another very nice example, the classical backup. Do you remember in my old times, in my old ages, I was working with backups tape by tape. I had my tape of Monday, the tape of Tuesday with all the data produced in Tuesday, the tape of Wednesday and so on, and I had my tape of the week on Friday. And I sent all the tapes in a track to a bank. Today, this is not possible. We're talking about terabytes of information created day by day in our plant. We cannot manage such amazing amount of tapes. We're talking about a system, a cloud system, where every single byte is replicated in 3 different data centers. And when every single byte arrives to each data center, each byte is multiplied per 3 again in 3 different physical servers. So could you see the data is continuously backed, but we cannot use the same classical approach because everything is different. So you need to have this dialogue with your cloud providers, because these kind of things are very technical, and you are a specialist in drug manufacturing, and you don't need to be a specialist in cloud architecture, but you can establish this transparency relationship with your cloud provider. This is really important. This is how the new world works. And for this reason, we're changing completely our mindset in terms also in terms of compliance and quality compliance. In my department, for example, we have already removed the word of CSV. Well, sorry, we have not removed, because CSV is also comma separated value, and we use that for AI. But the classical CSV concept of computer system validation, it doesn't exist anymore when we talk about cloud. This is the difference between computer system validation and computer software assurance. In the new stage, in the new era, we need to create our master validation plans based on the critical thinking. So based on this trustability relationship between our partners in the path. So you need to go to your cloud provider and you need to ask and you need to review, well, which is the component that is more risky for my current procedures? Which is the component or the module that is more risky for my GMP actions? Is the EVR? Is the print report? Is the audit? Well, based on that, let me make a risk assessment based on this critical thinking, and please don't try to replicate everything that your cloud provider is doing, because they will do better than you, because we are very good in drug manufacturing. We are not good in cloud, okay? So this is the paradigm shift. In the new CSA approach, we need to establish this human-based thinking. We need to be very strict, very robust, and very critical, and work together with our users. This is the change, believe me. From my perspective, in all the projects where we are now involved in implementing AI and cloud, we are successful because the users, they work together with the cloud providers, making this critical thinking together. So please don't use anymore the couple supplier or customer and provider. We're talking about partners. We're doing the journey together. Well, the validation software as a service is how to validate that means a lot. So based on this CSA approach, means that your IQ, the classical one, when you work in GMP environments, is very easy to do. You need to delegate the IQ to your provider, to your partner in the cloud, because you cannot run the IQ. You cannot establish how the last release of Netflix is working in your laptop, in your computer. You rely on the movie that you will see this night, but you need to do it with your partner. So this IQ is a shared documentation that needs to be ensured that it will run in your equipment, of course, in your browser, of course, but together with your partner. It's the same with the OQ. In the OQ, probably your partner, your cloud partner, will do a very robust set of tests in terms of OQ. For example, all the roles and profiles and so on, all the access logins and audit trails. Probably you need to ask for that to your cloud provider. They will have a very robust set of tests. Please don't repeat the same. You can delegate a lot of work in your cloud provider. Ask for that. You're working together. You're doing the journey together. The PQ, of course, the PQ is something that you need to do because you are the expert, the subject matter expert of your own processes. So in this case, you have to make a risk assessment based on the PQ of your cloud provider, your cloud partner, and you need to assess which part is not covered because you have a very specific process. In this case, it's your system, it's your validation, it's your part, but it's because you are the ownership and you are the expert on that, no? And remember, if you work in GMP environments, the validation of your cloud platform, your cloud software as a service, your cloud platform as a service needs to be based in a solid company. So every time that you are running Teams or you're running Google Suite in your company, you rely in the emails, you rely that your information is not violated. You rely on all these kind of things because these cloud providers are offering a platform robust, following the standards. Every time that you run any kind of GMP environment, GMP application on critical environments, you need to do the same. So you need to delegate to your cloud partner that everything is performed from the code till the full company is following the standard and the good practices recommended by the agencies. Only when you have that, and for example, if you are working with an infrastructure like Amazon, you need to ask that the infrastructure that you're running is certified by Amazon. So you need to be sure that everything you are running is well architectured and is robust. Only when you have this solid assumption, you can rely on the data that you produce in order to transform data into knowledge based on AI systems, following the path that we are going to describe.
So, Toni, before you move on, so there might be a question here that might be related to validation, what you've been talking right now. So we have a question here. In your opinion, at this moment within AI, are we moving from validation to qualification activities as it's been on the cloud and by the provider?
The qualification is the responsibility of the cloud provider. This is our responsibility. As a cloud providers, you need to request this qualification. But this qualification means that you are creating, if you are GAN4 classified in your software as a service or your platform as a service, you are GAN4 classification, means that you need to deliver a qualified platform because it's for a general intended use. So you never know which is the final SOP or the final procedure that the user will do with your, for example, with your batch of record. No? If you have a batch of record system in cloud, you will provide, as a cloud provider, this batch of record solution. And that needs to be qualified by the provider based on the software requirements that has been defined by the provider. But when you are using as user, you are a drug manufacturing company, and you are using this GMP, GXP software for your critical actions, you need to validate with your own SOPs, because maybe your recipe has a specific path that has not been covered by the qualification of the provider, because the provider is preparing a general and high level, or covering as many cases as we can as a suppliers, but for sure we won't cover the 100% of all the potential use cases. So in this case, we need to talk about qualification in the cloud provider side, and we need to talk about validation in the final user side. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Well, now it's time to talk about the main topic of the session, Agentic AI. I don't know if you were very excited about this part. So we have made this journey together. Now is the moment. So, but believe me, the previous part has been necessary in order to establish the context. Now you will see why. Good. So if you have arrived till this moment, let me share with you several thoughts and why we're talking today about this agenda. First of all, for everyone that thinks that AI is only asking things to the ChatGPT about the homework of my kids, for everyone that is thinking that AI is only asking to ChatGPT if I have a disease, which is the best pill to make, please, this is not AI. This is just using AI for something that is not realistically trustable, reliable. When we talk about AI, we're talking about science in drug manufacturing. When we talk about AI in drug manufacturing or in our industry, we are really describing how to use a mathematical tool, and AI is a branch of applied mathematics and also computer science. So when we're talking about AI, we're talking about a discipline that is scientific. We are teaching today AI at the university. So of course you can use AI in order to create a poem for your mom tomorrow, but we're talking about AI like a scientific tool. And this is one of the proofs. In 2024, two Nobel Prizes were because they were using AI in order to solve a very complex problem. The physics 2024 Nobel Prize and the chemistry Nobel Prize. In the first case for physics, I'm astrophysics, I'm very happy to say that they solved, or they could explain a very complex problem in physics that is the Wolfman box. If you are interested, we can dedicate another session, another day, but we need more time. In the chemistry use case, in the chemistry Nobel Prize, they won the prize because they were able to explain a very complex folding protein using alpha folding algorithm. So we're talking about AI as a scientific tool in order to evolve together. And remember, when we talk about AI, Gen AI is only one subset of AI. AI, believe me, is a huge amount of different possibilities in order to transform data into knowledge. So you can have machine learning like classical algorithms, could be random forest, could be k-means, could be isolation forest. There are plenty of them that we are using all of them in order to learn from the data, in order to create this digital twin that we were talking at the beginning. But there are plenty of them. Neural networks, deep learning. Gen AI is just a subset of deep learning. And when we talk about large language model, we are talking again about a subset of Gen AI. Okay, so let me share with you that when we talk about agentic AI, this is not a subset of AI. Agentic AI means that we have a technology that helps to augment the capabilities of Gen AI. And we will see what really that means. And I think that it's very good to see the evolution in the history. Do you remember when we were working in the 90s, we were talking about on-prem with this kind of computer center computers in our desktops, that they were connected to a server using the classical networks, using the RJ cable and so on. When we were talking in the 90s about on-prem systems, they were completely centralized. We had our computers in our desktops working in an isolated way. Well, in the 2000s, the cloud arrives, and we were talking about cloud systems by the first time. And we were talking also about this kind of new AI evolution in cloud. Today, we're talking about LLMs. Every single model that you work, for example, let me come back again to the OpenAI model. The last version of OpenAI requires, I think, 5 terabytes of space. Every time that you do a query, you are asking to 5 terabytes of model. No? So we are going up again to the centralized schema. Today we're talking about agentic. The agentic process is a distributed system that allows to you to distribute this kind of capabilities of AI in different, in parallel systems working together in order to find out the perfect combination for answering your question. So as you see along the time, we are always going through centralized to distributed, but we are always we're evolving through the journey. No? Well, which would be the next one? Could be the quantum. This is my opinion. If you want, we can share these thoughts later. But quantum is offering a new paradigm in the new evolution. But this is how agentic works. Agentic systems are decentralized systems that they are working with AI models, that they are running in parallel, that they are delivering to a converging system the final answer that is composed at the end. Okay, so the waves are always the same, but we have always a trending evolving together. And well, this is the main difference between the classical world, the rule-based, the classical algorithms, if else, loops, this classical programming that you can see in the previous ages in Visual Basic, in Python, in Java, in C++, for all guys like me. So it was very rigid. And in terms of validation, we felt very comfortable because we could encapsulate our code in a .exe file or in a DLL file in a library, and we control very well on-prem from a validation perspective. But this logic has evolved a lot. This logic has a lot of limitations because once we compiled the code, no one can violate, of course, this is good, but the code was very simplistic, was very limited. With AI today, we are able to augment human capabilities 24/7, and we are able to understand high dimensionality problems. But we have to pay the price. The price is, well, we cannot encapsulate everything because the system is learning continuously. We're talking about machine learning, and we need to adapt our quality and compliance ways to understand how to validate these new systems that they are learning. Even more when we talk about Gen AI. Please don't put your formula, don't put your recipe in OpenAI if you are working with a open version, because your formula, your recipe will be shared with everyone in the world. So we have to know which is the limitations that we have today, and we need to be aware in order to validate, and we need to adapt to the reality. Finally, we are talking today into agentic systems. Agentic system, that means that we have parallel systems working with AI in parallel, and they are converging every time that we need to make a final response. This agentic system means that you have different components working in parallel, doing things, doing augmented capabilities in order to provide an augmented value at the end. So we need also to adapt ourselves, our quality and compliance systems, following the same rules that we have explained so far, based on the trustability and reliability on your partners. And let me put a very nice example of agentic architecture. In this case, we're talking about, for example, a system that is providing to you a set of recommendations for your process in manufacturing. Imagine that you are making, some granulation process. In the granulation process, is very well known for the industry, but there are plenty of different symptoms, like, for example, the humidity in the input, the width of the grains, the solvents that we are using, the airflow temperature. There are plenty of different magnitudes that all combine between themselves. When you have this kind of variability in your process, needs to be adapted in order to have always a very stable and good batch. Well, what to do? Well, imagine that you are using on-prem system. An on-prem system needs a sequential step by step. When we talk about a new architecture based on this kind of serverless or agentic architecture, we're talking about parallel systems based on machine learning, deep learning, at the end in AI, where every single system is working in an independent way, like Netflix portal, where everything runs independently and with a very low risk of failure, because everything works and has been qualified in the right way independently. So when you have this agentic set point, it's calculating the perfect set points for the CPPs. When you have this model working, establishing which is the perfect set point, you need another digital twin that is taking care about the drifting of this model in order to check if the model works as expected. So you have agents in order to collect all the batch record. You have a system that is orchestrating everything. So could you see we're again coming back to a distributed architecture, but with an added value. In this distributed architecture, now we have plenty of different AI models, AI systems working in parallel in order to offer a better and a best solution in real time. This is a classical example in the agentic architecture in order to deliver value in drug manufacturing processes. Well, so now let's talk about, well, how we can evolve together as a compliance team, as a validation and compliance team, how we can evolve together, no? And please, we need to stop to feel that we're a center of cost. We're a center of value for the company. And this is how we can do that. First of all, let's start with this identification of the agents that they are working in parallel in our day by day. For example, when we qualify or when we validate systems in manufacturing, we know that we have to integrate quality control in process control, quality control in raw material, quality control in sampling, in microbiology. When we have stability studies, everything is connected. It's a huge error to think that in process control, doing volatile controls during the process, they are not connected with my CPPs. Everything is connected because everything is coming from the same source of the process. We cannot think that my raw material or my material that is the bulk material that is in process is completely separated from the machine. So also it's separated from the shift and the season. Everything is connected. So nowadays, this high dimensionality, this reality that is complex and real needs to be managed by humans. Is very difficult because we are very limited. I only can see in 3 dimensions. I'm so sorry. But we have tools that they allow to understand multidimensional as the reality is. So these agents are able to identify this kind of separated spots of data generation, and you need to understand how to automatize the process to control everything based on this agentic, this distributed system, everyone with their own AI. And finally, you need to orchestrate everything in order to have a full vision as a human we are in order to understand everything. Okay, so the orchestration is the human capabilities, but we cannot be 24/7 looking at our operations, complex operations. Okay, well, very good news again. So not only because the European Medicine Agency published very recently in November 2024, they published the reflection paper on the AI for medicinal product lifecycle, or the Act 2, or not only because from January we have the consideration of the use for AI in critical decision making in drug biological process coming from the FDA. We are lucky because, could you see the date? May 8th. So just 1 month ago, the FDA announced that they will do their own AI assistants in order to review everything that they do. So this is a giant step. We need to look at our regulators because they are moving ahead of the industry. They are applying already this agentic approach in order to learn and to understand complex things in a very fast way in order to deliver the value that our patients are waiting for. So I think that in this case, regulators are establishing the path to follow, and we need to look at them because they are talking to us in this sense. Well, just to let you know, I would like to share with you that Aizon is working very closely with the Bioforum, creating this new AI model validation and so on. So we will have a new webinar very soon, as you see here, where we are describing how to implement AI systems in regulated pharmaceutical environments. This is a huge work coming from different pharmaceutical companies and Bioform orchestrating that. Believe me, it's a very nice event webinar that we are happy to share with all of you. And with that, now let me share with you another poll because this is I have another slide, but this is my last slide. But before to go this slide, please, could you answer this poll? This is the last one. And we would like to know if you can, if you have used AI to accelerate your validation process, because AI today can help you in order to produce more robust risk assessment based on the knowledge. So the idea is that you collect every single batch that you produce and you apply AI on top of that in order to understand what's happening behind the batch. Not only because we have the batch record, it's also because you can integrate quality control measurements, you can control the logbook, you can control everything if you put in the same system. Have you ever think about how to use AI in order to accelerate validation?
So while the answers come in, maybe you can answer a question that we have. So can AI agents validate itself or other AI? And if yes, how do you control it?
I like this. I like this question because it's related with my last slide that is coming later, but I like it a lot. So let me share with you a very interesting thought. If you have an AI model in production, one of the main good practices that FDA and EMA are recommending is that you need to monitorize this model in order to be sure that every single output that is produced is under control and is part of the expected result. Remember, we're talking about AI as a mathematical tool. So we will have an answer coming from this mathematical tool, but we need to monitorize this AI output, and this monitorization could be done by humans, or if you are working in real time with AI, you cannot do that with humans. You can use AI as an objective system, as an objective observer made in a different system, made in a with different algorithms, trained with different data. There are plenty of different strategies that you can apply in order to be sure that the AI observer is not influenced by the AI actor. Again, we are talking about agentic AI. One agentic AI that is producing the manufacturing output, the prediction of the perfect amount of solvent, for example, in granulation. And you have another agentic AI that is monitoring if what I'm getting is out of specifications, is a reasonable data, if it is coming from a data that has been closed in the expected results. So AI can be used as observer and as validate the AI outputs of other models, but you need to apply the right strategy. So now we have the poll already performed. Again, thank you so much. I hope, believe me, I believe that after this webinar, you can think in other different strategies in order to apply AI in order to accelerate the validation. Today, we are doing a lot of different activities where AI is accelerating, is helping, is providing more robust outputs during the compliance process. I hope that this webinar helps for that in order to bring to you some ideas. And my last slide is precisely that, is explaining to you how Aizon is providing tools, for example, for our Aizon EBR, for the batch record system that we are providing, how using agentic AI, you can rely on the continuously, I mean, keeping in continuous validation your software as a service or platform as a service application. With this multi-agentic AI, you can define which is the documentation that you need for every single release, for every single change that your cloud partner provides, based on your software requirements, which is the traceability matrix between your own software requirements and the cloud provider documentation. We're talking about risk assessment, function specification, design specifications, OQ, PQ, but the entry point must be always your software requirements linked to the your user requirements linked to the software requirements coming from the cloud provider. Or you can ask for this agentic system, which is the GMP risks that the new release could provide in the new release, and how this risk can be mitigated before the release is coming. These kind of things are what we call an agent steward. We have an agent inspector where the system is able to execute on demand as many times as you need the OQ. So the OQ is a list of tests, general tests, roles, profiles, access, specific recipes, in a very automated way, as many times as needed, by an AI system providing the final conclusions, the final report for you. Every time you need, you have this OQ based on your ongoing system. And finally, we talk about the agent sentinel, where we have this automatic PQ based on your validation running continuously in your own instance. No one can share with you about how to run the automatic PQ and the continuous PQ based on your own user requirement. So this is another example about how agentic architecture working with AI in parallel brings a lot of value to the users and accelerates a lot the process performance for PQs, OQs, and the full validation. And humans, we can dedicate our time in order to make a better validation for better products and better processes. So we please, this is the era, this is the age where we can avoid papers. We need to forget the papers, and we need to dedicate our values as humans in order to improve the value to patients. Sorry for the long explanation, but I'm very happy to share that with you. Geri, this is your time, I think.
Yeah, unbelievable, Toni. I think all of that is so exciting, and the shift that it can actually change this industry. But I think we all find ourselves often handcuffed, right? You went through the digital maturity poll. We all find ourselves not digitally mature. We find that we're not using GMP AI for validation, and it is locked on paper. So I think fundamentally, before we go any further, the question probably in the gut of many of those viewers here is, how do we leverage AI if we're still relying on paper, right? It is one of the biggest challenges, and it's a problem that must be solved, and one that requires next generational thinking. Wouldn't you agree, Toni?
I agree, completely agree.
Yeah. So how do we do that? How do we enable this industry to move from paper to digital, and then really understand what our digital assets can ultimately do for us? And the journey to intelligent batch records is fundamentally about transforming traditional paper-based records into a dynamic and intelligent, compliant digital asset, right? Easy said than done. But it's not just about digitalization for digitalization's sake. It's about infusing intelligence, automation at every step of that batch record. Hence why we term it intelligent batch record versus electronic batch record. And by mimicking the original recipe, it eases change management, right? Or user adoption, one of the biggest objections on why to go digital on your shop floor. Our intelligent agents that Toni just went through play a crucial role here as well. They're designed to interact with various data sources within the manufacturing environment, from equipment sensors, control systems, LIMS, and MES, and bring that all together for use. A significant advantage to the Aizon Execute is its ability to streamline that recipe creation and management. So we got to get it digital, and our platform allows powerful recipe editors to make it easy to create not only new recipes from scratch, but how do you convert those existing recipes into a digital format and quickly. We promote reusable components, which simplifies this and speeds up the time from that recipe creation. So we ensure consistency not only across batches, but across plants and then across organizations. And then, of course, we manage the entire recipe lifecycle from creation to retirement, all within a controlled, secure, and compliant environment. Critical. That transition from a recipe to the actual implementation on the shop floor is one of the biggest barriers, right? How do we ensure that becomes seamless for adoption of the use? So we look at the digital batch record guiding the operator through every step, just as a paper batch record would, ensuring adherence back to your approval processes, operator instructions, standard operating procedures. Those are a one-to-one match. And this tablet or workstation is very lightweight, right? So can adopt to the shop floor and any of those devices that are required from a company approved approval. And then I would be remiss if I didn't share one of probably the most powerful features within Aizon Execute, which is after the batch data is recorded and through that process, and that's ability to review by exception. How many of us have spent endless hours having to manually review every single data point in the batch record and systematically look at the comparison between inputs and outputs? Our system actively monitors for deviations and anomalies and highlights those based on predefined criteria. Of course, we ensure a full GXP compliance audit trail. Every action, deviation, review is meticulously recorded along the way, providing a comprehensible and traceable record. So that solves the paper problem, if we can get that paper batch record into digital format. But again, if we stop there, we miss the real value of digital data. If we go back to where I started and the hundreds of millions of dollars in realized value, it's the insights that's gained from the digital data. From there, we must contextualize the data. So we've got it in digital format, whether that's the batch profit process itself, maybe data coming off the equipment or other source systems like LIMS, QMS, historians. But if we don't serve it up for analytical insights and advanced AI predictions, as Toni was alluding to, we fall short, because that's where we allow for root cause analysis, deviation reduction, and yield optimization, because the answers lie within that data set. Our ultimate goal is to provide insights for operators to ultimately close that loop, giving real-time actionable information. The insights is what is behind that millions of top and bottom line value behind the data. It's critical, which we highlighted at the very beginning of the session. The pinnacle is what we're stating is achievable. We can shift these poll numbers, right? We can move from 1.6 into full digital readiness. We can leverage AI for validation. So that pinnacle is achievable. But I think what's interesting is we actually claim and state and want to challenge you that that is reachable within 2025. From paper to intelligent GMP manufacturing within 100 days. And a challenge that we would love for you to bring to us, and we can actually show how we can move you through that system and so quickly. If you didn't get enough here, and you want more GMP AI, don't miss our GMP AI Day in Barcelona. It will be held November 3rd of 2025, and we couldn't be more excited to see you there, meet you in person, and go even deeper into this concept. And by November, we could actually have moved you again from paper to leveraging these agentic AIs and getting the true value out of your source systems. There is a QR code that will take you to our website where you can register for that event. With that, I want to thank you for your time, and we'll open it up to general questions.
Excellent. Thank you very much for this presentation. So let's dive into the questions. We have some time left. Before I jump also to the questions, I would like also to point out that you should write your question in the Q&A section so we don't miss it in the regular chat. So please don't use the regular chat because most of the questions I see are going into regular chat. So please use the Q&A box. Meanwhile, we have more webinars planned with Aizon throughout the year and maybe also next year. So please feel free also to use the chat to write topics of interest in surrounding AI and validation, GAMP, and so on, something that I'm sure that Aizon experts know much about. So feel free to add those topics of that come to your mind into the chat so we can consider them for next webinar. So we know what interests you. So we make sure to bring topics of relevance. So thank you for that. Now let's take a look at the questions that we have here. Toni, what would you say are the key steps to get rid of paper when you're looking at the grand scheme of things? And of course, it's a very big topic, but what would be the key steps, would you say?
The key steps for
getting rid of paper, going to
okay,
digital. So it's not directly to, connected directly with AI, but I think that's a question that I seen it a couple of times in the chat. So it might be something of relevance. So people might be maybe one step before AI because they're completely in paper. Can they directly go with AI? Is it do they need first to start with the QMS, simple QMS, then go to AI? Can you jump directly to AI? What's your point of view on that?
Sure. Actually, this is related with the Ajay Kumar question. How can companies maintain regulatory compliance during digital transformation? So you're completely right. We're talking about how to evolve from digital maturity level 1 or 2 to 3 or higher. The first thing is you need to have the top to down support. This is priority number 1. So if the effort is coming only from quality and compliance, and there is not support from the C-level, we have lost the battle. So we need to have always the engagement and the traction coming from the C-level. This is the first step. Once you have this traction, probably that means that you will have a chief data officer or chief information officer, or maybe a chief AI officer or chief digital transformation officer, someone that will take care from top to down that the strategy is implemented. This is the first thing. Afterwards, later on, which is the next step? Well, you have to collect, or you have to be aware about all the critical source of data that you have in your company, your digital systems that you have in place, and which kind of systems you still don't have. Next step, for all of them, all of the systems that you don't have digital mechanisms, that they are critical and they are providing key information, you need to provide, or you need to prepare the transition, or you need to acquire into having conversation in order to digitalize these critical systems, these critical processes that they are producing key data that will be used in order to generate information and finally transform into knowledge. But believe me, when you do that, it's very important that this transition is very frictionless in terms of quality and compliance. This is very important. So you cannot spend 5 years in order to transform one recipe. Believe me, this is not affordable, because when you have finished this recipe, the version of your system will be completely obsolete. So you need to have, or you need to agree, or you need to go in this journey with partners that they know how that works, and they know which is the quality and compliance aspects that we need to cover. Only in that moment you will succeed. Otherwise, you will spend plenty of efforts in a long journey in order to see the first result. It's very important to see quick wins in order to demonstrate the value. So if you have some process, if you have some operations that where you are struggling with, or that you will like, or you know that there are plenty of knowledge, but you don't know how to extract it, or you have used a lot of statistical tools, but you cannot find out the real result, probably that is a very good use case in order to solve. But believe me, that needs to have a top-to-down strategy, and you need to work with a partner that understands very well this frictionless approach in terms of quality compliance. So there is not magic. So it's a hands on hand path. We need to do that together.
Excellent. Thank you, Toni. There was another question in the chat, which is maybe not directly super pharma, very specific, but quite interesting on the AI aspect. So we know that especially in the EU, there is a lot of green initiative, and people worry about carbon emissions. And there are a lot of people like Bill Gates and Elon Musk that speculate that that AI can cause energy and massive energy surges, and it can cause a lot of spikes in energy usage worldwide. So can it be that maybe also regulator put handbrakes on the AI usage, and who is allowed to implement it, and so on and so on? What are your thoughts on that?
I like this question. Actually, we need to be very responsible with our planet. And do you remember, this is a question for all the quality and compliance audience. Do you remember or maybe you are already doing that, when we have to analyze and we have to approve a software or maybe a macro in a spreadsheet, when we need to validate these kind of programs, we make a code review. So every time that we run an AI model, because it's coming from an AI algorithm, people need to be aware that this AI algorithm needs to follow the good practices in programming. So you cannot allow infinite loops. You cannot allow spaghetti code. You need to make a code review, and you need to request a code review to your providers, because when you are doing an efficient algorithm, that will be effective also in terms of energy consumption. If you have an infinite loop, believe me, this is consuming a lot. When we are working with AI in real time, that means that we have a model running on real time, providing outputs. You cannot do that with OpenAI, because you are working with terabytes of information every single second. This is not sustainable. You need to qualify your cloud providers. You need to qualify your AI providers, and the sustainability is part of that.
Excellent. Thank you for this answer. So we have another question regarding ensuring that agents that are used for validation protocols are validated and work as you intend to. So what is the best practice? I think you might have answered some of the aspects on that, but if there is something that maybe you can add to it. So how do you ensure that the agents that use for validation actually do the work that you want them to do?
Well, there are different strategies. One of them, for example, is to measure the model drifting. So the model drifting is a mechanism that you need to implement in parallel. Of course, you cannot do that with a laptop typing something on real time. You need a platform in order to do that. You need to monitorize the model drifting in order to know if the model is going out, or maybe the data that is coming has not been included in the data set that you use for training. For example, let me put a real use case that we are experimenting in plenty of different places. Seasonality. Every time that we work with packaging lines, with primary packaging and secondary packaging, usually people is not using data coming from the different seasons. And the seasonality is very important when you live in a country where humidity is different from summer to winter. So in this case, you need to validate or you need to monitorize your models in order to be sure that your model that has been trained with a specific data set, when this data set coming from packaging data has been produced only with batches produced in summer, this model is acting properly when the winter arrives, because the humidity that is affecting to the primary packaging or the secondary packaging, the carton, at the end is affecting to the efficiency of the machine. These kind of examples are very common. So you need to monitorize in real time every single AI model as the regulatory bodies are recommending. And you can use, of course, platforms or other AI systems.
Thank you for answering this question. The next question is, can AI learn from the batch records? And if so, is there a way to interact with the AI and ask questions in regard to it to understand results and maybe plan for better outcomes or assess risks?
Mm-hmm. Good point. Actually, this is one important task of the quality and compliance teams in the departments. So as a quality and compliance teams, we need to make the product quality review, the annual product quality review by the law, no? And we need to learn for all the batches that we have produced in order to improve the next campaign next year. I don't know which is your experience, but in my experience, there are plenty of places where the annual product quality review is not used for that. So it's just a bureaucratic system, no, or quality paperwork. AI is learning today in order to improve the specifications, the limits of the critical process parameters. So when you have batches, you know which batches are going well and which batches were not going well in the past. So AI is a very good tool in order to understand this kind of high dimensionality of batches, plenty of CPPs against plenty of CQAs, in order to be sure or in order to understand which kind of combination of values on the CPPs are producing the perfect CQAs at the end. So this is a very classical and very easy task for AI.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that. So we have a couple of minutes left, so maybe we can take another question or two. So another question that we have here is, how can IBR be integrated either with existing manufacturing equipment and so how can you do it and whether it's possible to integrate with existing ones?
And in this case, let me answer the question with an example, because our intelligent batch record is prepared precisely to be frictionless, quite frictionless. For example, let me put an example. Imagine that you have a display in your equipment and a scale. You have a scale, but you don't want to lose power in your project, making the connectivity with the scale, because this scale has a different protocol than the other one. You have different scales, different brands, different connections, serial port, network, whatever. So, well, what about if you use AI only once, you validate only once, and you can delegate the responsibility in the qualification on the provider? For example, taking a picture of your display, and AI will take care about transforming this picture into the data that you need to inform in your EBR. This is a completely different approach that can save a lot of time in terms of quality compliance, because you don't need to validate every time all the connectivities with the different scales. And every time that the scale goes to calibration, you need to probably you will need to revalidate again the connectivity. Every time that the scale goes to the repayment, you need to revalidate again. With this mechanism, AI can save a lot of time in terms of quality compliance, because you validate only the interpretation of the display. This is just an example. There are plenty of them.
Excellent. Thank you. So I think we answer all the questions that we had in there. So we have a lot of questions in the chat, but I believe those are webinar topics actually, and not for the specifics. So I think that we answer all the questions that we had in the Q&A and the questions that were mistakenly put in the chat. So I think on that note, we could then finalize today's session. So thank you very much for everybody who have joined us today. If you want to say a few final words, Toni, Geri.
Geri, you first.
I just want to thank everybody again for their time, their energy, their participation in the polls. It does make a difference, and I think really you're going to see 2025 to continue that momentum that we are projecting, and let's move to some great outputs.
Yes, thank you so much. And we have a mission, quality and compliance team. We need to change the world. We need to have a different perspective in our department. We are not a cost. We are a value for the companies. Thank you so much.